Number one reason why men in their 30s fail at dating. And honestly, it's not as hard as you think. And once you understand this concept, it's actually going to help you make improvements in your dating life, and it's going to be a lot easier. And that's the goal here. So, the number one reason why men in their 30s fail at dating is not what you think. And I want to start with a story. So, we have John, and John is a 35-year-old engineer, and he's been book smart his whole entire life, and he's focused on his career. He's got 3 PhDs, and he's been studying basically his whole life. So he's not spent any time with learning how to talk to women, learning how to socialize. He's not spent any of that time. And now that he's established in his career, it's time for him to go out into the world and meet people, and he wants to explore his dating life. And when he was in university, he had a woman, but he kind of just broke up with her because he just didn't really think much of it at the time, because he was just trying to focus on his career, focus on his studies. So he never really experienced dating. It kind of just happened. But now he's going, I want to get into the game. So what John does is he goes and starts reading pickup, and he starts learning some lines, and he starts learning some techniques, and he tries to, do the tactics. And he goes to a nightclub, and in the nightclub he meets Jenna. And Jenna is a 20-year-old that has been working at a shoe store for the last 4 years, and she's in university just getting started. She doesn't really know where she is in her life. She has no direction. She's just basically a party girl right now. And so John goes up to Jenna in the nightclub and uses his perfect pickup line. He's prepared it, and he's tried to figure it out. And what do you think happens? Jenna instantly rejects him. Instantly. And not just kind of, it's like she's like completely unattracted to him. He's got these big glasses, he's got oversized pants, his hair's all a mess, and Jenna's 20, and she's basically at the peak of her attraction. Blonde hair, blue eye, and so she rejects John, and then John is absolutely devastated. So then John leaves the club, and he basically tells him stories of why he's not good enough. But what's actually going on between John and Jenna? Well, it's this thing called demographics. Their demographics aren't lined up. So they're completely in different times of their life. So let's look at this for a sec. So John is a 35-year-old engineer that hasn't expanded his skill set. He's not expanded his skill sets. He's not expanded his habits. He's not expanded his communication patterns. He's not expanded his way to talk to women. He's not expanded his way to convey himself to women. He doesn't know about masculine frame. He doesn't know about congruence. He doesn't know about calibration. He doesn't know about any of these things. So for him, he's pretty far from her. And where she's at in her life, she's a university student, first year of university. So right now, she's kind of just dating the football star and going for like jock heads. And she's not sophisticated. She hasn't educated herself. And John's got three PhDs, So what's happening there is what's called friction. Now, when friction happens, basically it doesn't line up. And when the friction happens, the dating, they can't be compatible with each other. So you're not looking for friction. But do you notice that John, even though he said the perfect line, right? And guys are always so focused on this. They're always so focused on the perfect line. But you say the right thing at the wrong time, it's going to create friction. And so now there's friction between John and Jenna. But that has nothing to do with John's perfect line. That has nothing to do with John as a person. Now, John, what John's going to do is he's going to take on this rejection and tell himself a story that he's not good enough and then gives up. But John didn't. John didn't give up. He came across a dating consultant and he started working on himself. So he started learning about style. So one of the key things that he learned about style was he learned about how clothes need to fit. That's a key component when you're basically becoming a man and you want to start investing in your style. So if you are a man watching this right now, I want you to take notes and take down the note of, it's so important. It's not about the brand, it's about the fit. So if you can even see this coat, right? I don't know, it's not like a branded thing. Even my hat's not branded, but it's how it fits. So it's really important that you could go to Walmart and get a shirt that fits, right? And you want the shirt to kind of snug up against your body, your shoulders. You want the threads to be at your shoulder right here. You want those threads to be at your shoulder. And it could just be a basically plain black tee. You don't need anything crazy. The next thing that you want to understand about style is you want things to match. So try to have things match. It's important to have things match. This can help. So John started to work on his style. He started to go get his hair cut. He started to learn. He went to the barber and he asked the barber, "Hey, what's the best way for my hair that I have? How can it accentuate my look the best? How can it make me look, you know?" Because that's the thing, right? We as men can always optimize ourselves. That's what's so cool. So attraction levels really in a man, he becomes his peak attractiveness if you look at what's called the SMV, which is the sexual market value. If you look at that, men's actually peak at 36. And so women peak at 21, actually 23. Women's peak sexual market value peaks at 23, whereas a man peaks at 36. And the difference between a man and a woman is a woman peaks high and goes quick. Her attraction's really high at 23 and then drops by like 27, whereas a man grows gradually up to 36 and then drops around 45. It's like, and it's just a slow boil off. So if you're a man watching this, that's part of the power of, being a man that women don't have. Unfortunately, it's just women are beauty objects and men are success objects. So we all have our things that we're working for, but this video is for a man in his 30s. So now John starts working on his style, okay? And then he starts understanding concepts like masculine frame and how to have masculine frame. He starts to understand congruence. And so he starts opening himself up vulnerably in who he really is. He's not hiding. He doesn't what's called pander. He doesn't pander in conversations. And he's working on himself. And he lines up these events. He's been going to events. He's been putting himself out there socially. He actually, in his career, he turned down a job hire. He had an opportunity to get a raise in Amazon, and he decided, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to focus this year on working on my social skills. So he's putting himself out there and he starts working on himself. And after maybe a year, he starts to develop communication skills and conversational skills. He understands frame. He's congruent. He knows how to create polarity with the woman and women in general. And something interesting happens. Jenna, who was dating the football high school stud, was a complete dickhead. And she was over him. So they broke up and she started focusing on university. So she got into the next level of nursing school. So she's starting to take her grades seriously. She's starting to go out less. She's starting to study more and she's starting to sophisticate herself. So she's getting a bit more sophisticated. She's starting to mature. She She's moved out on her own now, and she's looking for someone that's a bit further along the journey. Like, she's looking for someone that's more mature, that has a way about himself, that can hold himself, that can lead, that is figured out his life, so to speak. And now John goes and uses that line on Jenna. Guess what happens? Their demographics line up. Now they don't have friction. Why? Well, Jenna she's increased her skill sets, she's increased herself, and then John's expanded himself. And so what starts to happen is what's called their demographics overlap, and they can find mutual ground. Whereas before, they couldn't find mutual ground. They're too far apart. So the number one reason men fail at dating, especially in their 30s, is they don't line up their demographics. And so when your demographics don't line up, it creates friction. And so it doesn't matter if you know the best pickup line in the world, it's not going to help you, because you need to have your demographics line up. And if the demographics don't line up, it creates friction. And when there's friction between the interaction between the man and the woman, it's just not going to work. There's too much friction. So let's unpack what friction is. Friction is, for example, you're going to meet a woman and she's flying. So for example, let's say you're in, let's say, New York, and you meet this woman and she's from Venezuela, and you're in New York, and she lives in Venezuela. She's just on a trip for one day for her work. She's just on a trip one day for her work. And she's flying out the next day. It's not going to work. Demographics don't line up. So you could be the right guy at the right time, but she's flying out. So it's not going to work. You could be the right guy at the right time, and she's in a relationship, right? So that doesn't work. You could find someone and the logistics basically don't line up, right? So what happens is you two potentially could be compatible, but your demographics don't line up. You're too far from each other. So another one, you could be a man that's completely intellectual, you are sophisticated, you love educating yourself, and you're around someone that completely doesn't value intellect, that is basically just a party girl, grew up in poverty, and now is just trying to get people's money, like, that's not, you're just incompatible, which creates friction. And when that friction is created, it doesn't allow for the fluidity of the relationship to flow. And this is really important. So what is the solution? What is the solution to actually achieving dating success in your life in your 30s? Demographics. And it's really quite simple. So what I want you to do is I want you to identify who you are. So what do I mean by that? What are your likes? What are your dislikes? What kind of hobbies are you interested in? Where do you like to hang out? What are you passionate about? This is very important, okay? Because too many guys try to change themselves in a way that's not congruent to themselves. So I'll give you an example. For me, I love being in nature. It's the thing that I love to do. So if I were to go wanting to meet women, I'm going to go to a hiking event where there's a hiking meetup. So you could go to like meetup.com or Facebook or something and find a group. I'm in a place where there's a ton of mountains and a ton of hikes. So what I would do is I'd go to a meetup where there's hikes. Why? Because the women that I'm going to meet at that place, our demographics are going to line up. It's going to be much more synergy, and there's going to be much more overlap for us to meet up. So that's going to be very helpful. So I want you to identify your demographics. Then once you're clear on that, you can do a couple things. You could do your own research, or since we're in the ChatGPT era, type into chat all your demographics. So what do you like? What do you don't like? What types of hobbies do you like? What are your passions? and say, where would a woman, and then put in your city, right? So like, for example, I'm in Vancouver. So then I would put in, like, I'll give you my demographics. I want a woman. I enjoy meditating. I enjoy health. I love saunas, hot baths. I love floating. I love being in nature. I love going to the gym. I love surfing. I love snowboarding. I like events. I like self development, all these types of things. And I just keep listing off, right? And then I'd ask chat, okay, uh, can you share with me where women that have the same interest or some of the same interests hang out? And it might spit out all these places, right? Like they'll go a hiking event. They'll say, okay, hey, there's this personal development event coming up, this leadership event. Feel free to check that out. And so then what I do is I strategically go to those events. And now I'm expanding myself, and that's key. You need to start expanding yourself. But right now, you're potentially going to the wrong places. And no matter where you are, if you're casting your line in the wrong pond, you're never going to catch the fish. Rather, if you're looking for salmon, you got to come to BC and you got to come to our beautiful rivers and fish here. But if you're looking for a jellyfish, you ain't going to get one here unless you go to the aquarium. But you ain't going to get a jellyfish in one of these rivers. So it's important that you cast your line. I don't know if any of you are fishing for, if you're fishing for a jellyfish. But one of the key things here is you got to cast your line in the right pond or in the right river. So this is going to help you really start to meet the right person. And then here's the key. Now there's much less friction. The friction has gone down way more. You've completely decreased your friction, and now it just becomes easy, you know? And now you don't need necessarily the perfect line. You don't have to have, here's the thing. Okay, I'm going to break down a core concept for you right now. The key thing to this is your behavior. So all attraction with men and women comes down to your behavior. And that behavior is all the things to do with your body language, your eye contact, your vocal variety. Guys, even the way you hold your shoulders, even where your chin is, are all tells on how confident you are. And I don't know if you can tell, but my voice isn't that deep. But it's not necessarily about how deep your voice is. That is very attractive, by the way. But it's, can you be self-expressed? Can is your voice opened up? You have different ranges. Can you take a woman through different ranges with your voice? Because that's very, very important to be able to have that different cadence in your voice. It's very important. So 93% of communication is nonverbal. It's nonverbal. So it's a huge component to being successful with women. And how you do that is that all gets conveyed through your behavior. So that's like your energy too, your frame, right? How you hold yourself. It's all very, very, very important. So what I need you to do is I need you to start focusing on your behavior. Now, if your behavior is all off and you're going to say the wrong line or you're trying to say the perfect line, it ain't going to work. Sorry, Charlie. It ain't going to work. It's not going to line up. So it's very important that you get your behavior on point. And then when you get your behavior on point, now you say the line and you get your demographics on point, it's going to be so much easier. And then when you do that, that's going to be helpful for you to succeed. And this is going to make life a lot easier. So, key points, get your demographics right. The reason why is so that you don't create friction. And when you don't create friction, it's going to be much easier to attract the woman that you want. And finally, work on your behavior. How you do that? Well, follow this channel. So click the link below. I have a certain offer that I'm offering. If it's a fit, I have a 90-day accelerator where I help men with this. and go through this and work through this. It's a powerful accelerator. I'm in the process of creating a course through the course line as well. So click the link below and let's jump on a call. Let's see if we're a fit. We can accelerate your results. And that's key because you don't want to, you're getting close to 40 and you don't want to be facing this in your 40s. And if you're a man in your 40s, you have to click the link because we can't be having this right now. It's time to get in a relationship. It's finally time to attract your ideal woman. And we're going to work on getting past all these things of like, what do I say? How do I get over my mind blank? How do I actually attract her? What are the specific things I say? So once we accomplish all that, we'll be able to figure out how to finally attract the woman that we want in our life. All right. Much love. Take care.